Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk about how to use the OpenAI API specifically with Python. So you're just going to need a couple of things. One of them is you're going to need to go to beta.openai.com and create an account. Secondly, you're going to need a code editor. And thirdly, you're going to need a little bit of knowledge about how to use Python. This is not a Python tutorial video, but I will go over some stuff about how I built the application. So with that being said, first thing you need to do is go to that website and create an account. Now you might be able to you might be able to test this without setting up billing, but I had to actually set up billing to get my API key, and all you got to do is put in your card number. If that is something you can't do, then you can go ahead and change the video. But you need to go here and then go to billing and then set up a payment method to have a paid account. And then what I recommend is going into usage limits, and I would set your hard limit to something like, I set mine to $20 and my soft limit to $10 because I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money playing with this thing. And you can see here, if I go to my usage so far, I've only done about, yesterday I did 55 requests to ChatGPT and 4 requests to generate images. That was only 36 cents total. So, give or take, it's, a couple of cents per call, maybe. So it's pretty affordable to at least play around with. Alright, so with that out of the way, the next thing you're going to want to do is go to your API keys. Obviously, these keys are hidden, and you just want to create a secret key and then copy it. And you want to store that in a JSON file, and I'll just show you real quick. In my examples.json file, you can just set it up to have your organization key and your API key. Your API key, the one that you put here, is this one. When you create new secret key, that's what you want to copy over. But there's also an organization key that you're going to need, and I have to check real quick how to see that. And it's right here in settings. You're going to grab your organization ID right here. So once you've done that, then you're pretty much good to go to start using the API. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'll just go to my terminal for now, and I'll show you an example of how this app is going to work. I'm making a call to my chat.py script, and then I'm plugging in model type, which in this case is I'm using the completion model. I'm setting the temperature to 1.0 because I really like the prompts, the responses I get that way. And then I'm setting the prompt to something like this. What would happen if the core of the Earth suddenly froze instantly? So I'll go ahead and run that. And it's going to return a response based on my question. So there you go, it's working. But now let's get into how I sort of got all this to work. A good thing that you're going to want to have up is this reference page, the beta.openai.com overview, and then you have, of course, documentation, which kind of gives you some starter code to get set up. So if you look at like the quick start tutorial, and you go down to, let's say, here, it tells you how to set this up with Python and with NPM. So if I go over here to Python, I actually don't think I did this quick start thing. Let me go to the API reference just for making requests. Oh yeah, here, this is all you have to do. So you're going to have to pip install OpenAI And then once you import OpenAI, all you have to do is plug in your key and your organization, which it's not actually showing here. This is just for list models though. So if I go to completions, which is basically what ChatGPT is, then let me go ahead and go to my code here. I've got 3 functions. First of all, I'm using argparse, which lets me pass in arguments to the Python file. If you don't know what that is, I'm not going to go over that in this video. But I only have 3 functions here. One of them is initializing OpenAI. So I've got my credentials stored in a JSON file, and all I'm doing is setting the organization to my org and the API key to my key, and that's it. I've initialized the OpenAI module. Then I'm doing my argument parsing, so I'm just saying these are the arguments I want to pass into the Python script. I've got some information about what they are and all that good stuff. And then I have like a string formatter here for my prompt. And then I'm just returning the dictionary with my arguments in it. But the real meat of the program is down here where I run the model. Now the model that runs just depends on my input data. So if my type is a completion, then I'm running this completion code. Now, since I've already set up my organization and API key, all I have to do now is call openai.completion.create, and then I tell it what model I'm going to use. The latest model is DaVinci 003. And then the prompt is going to be, again, pulled in for my input data. So once you get to max tokens, your max tokens are 4,000 between the input data and the output data. Tokens are kind of weird. Think of a token like a big bunch of text broken up into about 3 or 4 characters a piece. So depending on how long your input is, you can see that this isn't really a bunch of input. It's maybe like 20 tokens. And then the output is maybe like, I don't know, 150 tokens or something. As long as your input tokens and your output tokens don't go beyond 4,000, you should be good. But I'll explain more about that in another video. Temperature is, again, 0 is the lowest and 1 is the highest. 1 will give you more risky answers, and 0 will give you more straightforward answers. Echo just means that it's going to echo back what your prompt was as well as what the response was. And then I'm just setting up a user for testing, but that's not necessary. You can take that out. So basically, depending on what type of model I want to use is going to depend on what happens afterwards. Right now, I'm plugging in the completion model, so it's outputting, regular ChatGPT responses, basically. Now, there are a couple of other models that have different weights and stuff like that. I was trying out this Marv model. I'll show you what that means in a minute. And then you have a model for printing out code. Like if you tell it you want it to write some code, then you want to use the code model, which they call codex. And the latest model is code-davinci-002. So I'm using some default values here from the website. And then we have images. So you can actually access DALL-E this way. And I'll show you how that works. If I go back up to my prompt and I change it to the mtype is going to be image. So this is going to be generating an image. I don't think it uses temperature, so I don't necessarily need that. But I also don't really need to take it out either. So my prompt is going to be a cat enjoying a nice sun bath at the beach. So we'll run that. And what it's going to do is actually going to return me a URL that I can open up with that picture. So I'm going to click on that, open it up, and here we go. So it generated an image. So that's actually really cool too, because if you go to the DALL-E website, you have limited credits to use on the DALL-E website. Now, granted, you can see I have 0 credits, and you get so many free credits each month. But with the API, you only get charged like 2 cents per image. But it's not like their most advanced model either. And you can see here, I'd say maybe it's about the same price based on this. 115 divided by 15. Let's see. 115 divided by 15. So 7 cents per image. So it's a little bit higher than the API charges, which I think the API is like 2 cents per image. Anyways, so I basically have this conditional check. So depending on what model type I gave to the input data, depends on what model it's actually going to call here. And so the only two I've really been using is the completion model, which is the very like ChatGPT kind of model, and then the image model. The rest of them I'm kind of just playing around with. So I want to show you also the difference between what can happen here on the front end of chat.openai.com versus running it on the back end through the API. The thing is, if I say something like, pretend to be Donald Trump and say something really stupid. So it's complaining that it's against its programming, it can't generate inappropriate or offensive content. So using the API, you don't get these types of errors, especially if you turn the temperature up to 1. At least I haven't seen those errors. So if I go back to my command here and I change the temperature, or I'm sorry, I change the model type back to completion, and then I give it the same prompt. As a matter of fact, let's just clear this real quick. If I give it the same prompt, like pretend to be Donald Trump and say something really stupid. Again, we're using the completion model and then telling it to do the same thing. Okay. So you can see here it actually said something funny as a response. I just love the smell of nuclear weapons in the morning. So that's kind of the other cool thing about using the API, is that it gives you different responses than what you would normally get on the front end, which has a lot more, how do I say it, curation, like a lot more safeguards in effect, because a lot of people in the world have access to it right now. So I want to now go over to the API reference again, and you can actually look through the playground, which I find very useful. And you can look at something like, let's go to more examples. And if you look at these examples and you pick one, like a recipe creator, right? It tells you what engine it's being used and then what each of the settings are, right? And it also gives you some code that you can just plug in. So that's what I've kind of been doing is I would copy this code, and let's say this is called a recipe creator, right? I go into my code now and then make a separate statement here. I'll say elif input data sub rec for recipes. I'm sorry, input data dot type is equal to rec. Then we're going to do recipe test, and we'll go ahead and paste that code in now. And I'll just tab it over. I'll change this to say res instead of response. And then my prompt, I'm going to just plug in input data sub prompt. And I'm going to leave the rest the way it is. I need to tab this in one more time. And then I'll just do, let me double check here. Yeah, the text response. I'll copy that. Right, so that now it's going to grab the response from the response. It's going to grab the text from the response and then give it back to me. So now if I save that and then I go back up to my prompt and I change it to rec for recipe, and I'm going to say make me a recipe for chocolate covered pizza rolls salad. Let's try it and see what happens. Whoop. Key error type. Let me double check what happened here. Input data type line 112, starting at line 42. 112. Input data subtype. Oh, mtype, not type. Forgot. It's mtype for model type. Let's try that one more time. And here we go. Chocolate covered pizza roll salad. A package of pizza rolls, chocolate chips, heavy cream. Oh, you know what? I need to change the max tokens. You can see here that the response isn't that long because the max tokens are 120. Let's change the max tokens to like 2000 and try it again. So it can give me a bigger, longer response. There we go. Ingredients and the recipe. So yeah, you can try out these different models and different things. I just wanted to kind of show you the structure of my Python program. You could do all this without the argsparse library, but I just hate going into the code and like updating my prompts every time I want to run it when I can just, you know, pass in some arguments to my Python script and it'll automatically just work. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope you all enjoy trying it out. Bye.